It's 2:47 in the morning. Your phone lights up in a dark room you've been surviving inside for weeks now. One notification. 2 words. Hey, stranger. And your entire body feels it. Not just your chest, your whole nervous system. Your stomach drops. Your jaw tightens. Your mind starts running before your fingers even move. What does this mean? Why now? Does he actually miss me? Or does he just miss having access to me? If I respond, am I restarting this cycle all over again? If I don't, will this be the last time I hear from him? Why does he still have this kind of power over me? Am I the one who messed this up? Here's what nobody tells you. No contact doesn't crush an avoidant's ego because you disappeared. It crushes their ego when they realize you are no longer emotionally available to them. That changes everything. And no, you are not weak for feeling this. You are not failing at love. You are not crazy for wanting clarity from someone who trained you to survive on crumbs. Every person who has ever loved deeply and been met with distance has stood exactly where you're standing tonight. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why silence alone almost never changes the pattern, what actually gets beneath the surface of avoidant behavior, and what to do if you want your absence to mean something real. Let's get into it. Most people believe no contact works because absence creates longing. But the real truth is this. Absence without self-respect is just delayed availability. That's the part most people miss. An avoidant nervous system is often not scared of distance. It uses distance. Distance is how it regulates overwhelm. Distance is how it avoids emotional exposure. Distance can actually feel safer than closeness, especially when intimacy starts activating old patterns around pressure, engulfment, disappointment, or shame. So if you go no contact, but emotionally you're still there, still waiting, still checking, still hoping they'll notice, still structuring your entire inner world around whether they reach out, they feel that. Maybe not consciously, but they feel it. Their nervous system is reading you before their mind can catch up. And here's what nobody explains. What crushes the avoidant ego is not punishment, not silence, not coldness, not making them jealous. It's the moment the old emotional arrangement stops working. The arrangement where you overfunction and they underexplain. Where you carry the connection and they carry the control. Where you stay emotionally available while they stay emotionally vague. Because beneath the surface you're usually thinking, if I just say this the right way, maybe he'll finally feel safe enough to choose me. And beneath the surface, they're often feeling, if this gets any more emotionally intense, I'm going to lose myself in it. Same relationship, different protection. So if you really want to change this dynamic, you have to stop focusing on whether they miss you and start focusing on whether access to you still feels automatic. That is the shift. That is the break in the cycle. And that is exactly why no contact is not enough. Point 1. No contact can't be a hidden invitation. Here's the part no one talks about. Most people treat no contact like a silent protest. They stop texting, but emotionally, they leave the lights on. They still watch every story. They still reread old messages. They still wait for the phone like their life is on pause. And most people do this because they are not really detaching. They are trying to be missed loudly without saying a word. But here's the deeper truth. Avoidant ego is not crushed by your silence if your energy is still chasing from a distance. If they can still feel you hovering around the connection, the old pattern is still intact. Your words may be gone, but your longing is still doing all the labor. And when that happens, he feels no urgency to grow. She feels no need to become emotionally available. They feel your presence as a guarantee, not a privilege. So the disconnecting version sounds like this. They text, "Hey, been thinking about you." And you say, "Wow, after all this time?" Then, 10 minutes later, "I missed you too." Then suddenly, you're back in the same unspoken cycle that hurt you in the first place. The connecting version sounds different. They text, "Hey, been thinking about you." And you say, "If you want a real conversation, be clear. I'm not doing casual check-ins anymore." Or honestly, you say nothing at all if the message does not meet the standard of repair. That's not a game. That's a closed loop. And when you do that, the room finally gets quiet enough for reality to walk in. Point 2. Crumbs stop working when you stop starving. And this is the one most people never figure out. Most people do not leave a relationship because it's unbearable. They leave because the inconsistency becomes normal. They learn to live on tiny moments of connection and call it hope. One good night, one sweet message, one soft voice note, then 3 days of distance, then another tiny hit of warmth. And most people stay trapped here because intermittent affection is addictive. It activates longing. It keeps your nervous system bonded to potential instead of reality. But here's what nobody explains. Avoidant dynamics are often maintained by contrast. Not constant connection. Contrast. The cold makes the warm feel bigger than it is. The distance makes the return feel more meaningful than it is. So if every crumb still works on you, the ego never gets challenged. Because somewhere inside them, a thought is quietly forming. I don't have to fully show up. She'll still be there. Or, I can stay half in. He'll still keep the bond alive. The disconnecting version sounds like this. They say, "Sorry, I've just had a lot going on." And you say, "It's okay, I understand. When can I see you?" You take the crumb. You thank them for it. You train the cycle to continue. The connecting version sounds like this. They say, "Sorry, I've just had a lot going on." And you say, "I understand life gets heavy. But inconsistency doesn't work for me anymore. If you want to be in my life, it has to be with clarity. Short, clean, real. Not more patience. Not more empathy at your own expense. Not one more speech about your needs. But standards that make partial access stop feeling profitable. And when crumbs stop working, the whole pattern starts losing oxygen. Point 3. Your silence has to be clean. This is where it gets really interesting. Most people think power looks detached. Late replies, dry texts, strategic stories, a little jealousy bait, a little mystery. Most people call that moving on, when it is actually just emotional theater. And honestly, avoidance can feel that. Maybe not line by line, but in tone, in energy, in presence. Your nervous system leaks the truth. If your silence is still trying to be seen, it is not clean. It is communication in disguise. Clean silence feels different. It has no hook in it, no performance, no revenge, no secret audience. It is not ghosting, not punishment, not a delayed test. It is a person reclaiming their center because the connection was costing too much of their peace. So the disconnecting version looks like this. They pull away. You stop texting, but you start posting things you know they'll notice. A quote, a dinner pic, a smiling selfie with just enough ambiguity to say, "Look what you lost." The connecting version looks like this. They pull away. You go quiet because you are actually stepping out of the cycle. No signals, no bait, no emotional smoke. just a real withdrawal of access while you return to your own life. And that is the moment something in them can finally register. Oh, she's not orbiting me anymore. Or, he's not waiting in the same way anymore. That lands hard. Because the ego can handle anger. It can handle pleading. It can even handle drama. What it struggles with is your genuine emotional absence. And when your silence is clean, the walls between your pain and your power start to come down. Point 4. Stop explaining your worth to someone committed to misreading it. But here's what nobody explains. Most people think if they can just communicate clearly enough, lovingly enough, calmly enough, the other person will finally get it. So they write the paragraph, then the longer paragraph, then the closure paragraph disguised as the final paragraph. And man, that hurts. Because it comes from a real place. You are not trying to manipulate. You are trying to be understood. But most people do not realize that over-explaining your pain to an avoidant person in shutdown often makes them feel more pressure, not more clarity. Why? Because what feels like honest expression to you can feel like emotional pursuit to them. And when an avoidant nervous system feels cornered, it does not suddenly become more emotionally available. It withdraws. It intellectualizes. It delays. It goes numb. Meanwhile, you are thinking, how can he not see how sincere I'm being? And beneath the surface, something in them is quietly saying, I can't carry this much emotion right now, so I'm going to create distance from it. The disconnecting version sounds like this. I gave you everything. I showed up for you. I was patient with you. I explained my needs 100 times. I don't understand why that was never enough for you. That is heartbreak speaking. But it also leaves your worth sitting in their hands like it still needs their approval. The connecting version sounds like this. I care about you, but this dynamic no longer works for me. I'm not available for connection without consistency. That's it. No courtroom, no essay. No begging them to validate what was real. This isn't a communication hack. This is what emotional maturity looks like when you stop outsourcing your value to someone else's capacity. And when you do that, your dignity stops feeling like something you have to argue for. Point 5. Make access earned, not assumed. Here's the part that changes everything. Most people think the win is getting the avoidant to come back. But the real win is making sure the old version of access is gone forever. Because if they can disappear, return, flirt, soften, re-enter, and pick up your attention exactly where they left it, nothing has changed. Not really. The chemistry came back. The cycle stayed. And most people miss this because longing makes re-entry feel like repair. It isn't always repair. Sometimes it is just reactivation. Like scar tissue getting tugged before it has healed. Like a smoke detector going off because your body remembers the fire, even if the room looks calm. The disconnecting version sounds like this. They say, I miss you. And you say, I miss you too. Want to come over? Instant access. Zero accountability. Old pattern restored by sunset. The connecting version sounds like this. They say, I miss you. And you say, missing me isn't the same as being ready for something real. If you want to reconnect, I need clarity, consistency, and an actual conversation about what happened. Now access costs vulnerability. Now presence costs truth. And here's what changes inside them when that happens. He feels the loss of convenience. She feels the loss of emotional control. They feel that the bond is no longer something they can dip in and out of without consequence. And somewhere inside, the inner voice finally says, if I want access to this person, I have to show up differently. That is when the fantasy breaks. That is when the ego gets touched. That is when a relationship stops feeling like emotional rent you keep paying on someone else's terms. Point 6. Build a life they can feel, but not interrupt. And this is where most people get it completely backward. Most people think the point of no contact is to make the other person wonder what you're doing. No. The point is to become someone whose life is no longer built around waiting. That matters more than people realize. Because avoidant ego often rests on an unspoken assumption. No matter how withdrawn I get, some part of her will stay emotionally parked here. That is the hidden power. Not love, not connection. Predictability. Your continued emotional availability becomes part of their regulation, even if they never admit it. So if you want to truly shift the dynamic, your life has to stop bending around their unpredictability. Not louder dating, not fake happiness, not pretending you never cared, but real becoming. Real routines, real structure, real joy, real repair. A life with connection, presence, and meaning that does not pause every time their energy changes. The disconnecting version looks like this. You wake up and check whether they watched your story. You replay the last conversation in the shower. You say no to dinner because you want to stay available in case they text. Your whole day is arranged around a possibility. The connecting version looks like this. You go to the gym. You answer the call from your friend. You book the class. You make the plan. You go outside. You let your body learn that life is still happening, even without their return. And somewhere beneath the surface, a real shift begins. I can miss them and still move. That is powerful. Because when you stop living like your emotional future depends on one person waking up and choosing you, you stop radiating need and start radiating wholeness. And that's the shift that turns your energy from easy to access into deeply easy to respect. Point 7. If they come back, require emotional risk. This is the final piece, and honestly, it's the one that separates healing from another round of hurt. Most people think reconnection means the hard part is over. But most people do not understand that avoidant patterns rarely break because of reunion alone. They break when reunion requires emotional courage. That means, if they come back, the question is not, do they miss me? The question is, are they willing to risk honesty, accountability, and consistency to build something different? Because wanting you is not the same as being able to love you well. Longing is not commitment. Chemistry is not repair. The disconnecting version sounds like this. They say, I've been thinking about you a lot. And you say, me too. Let's just not overcomplicate it. That sounds easy. It feels familiar. And it puts you right back inside the same emotionally unfinished room. The connecting version sounds like this. They say, I've been thinking about you a lot. And you say, if we do this again, it has to be differently. I'm not interested in half connection. I'm interested in something emotionally available, honest, and real. Now they have to step out from behind charm. Now they have to turn toward the unspoken. Now they have to bring their whole self, not just their missing. And here's what that does. It reveals everything. Not because you force them, because reality did. Someone who is ready will lean in, Slowly, maybe. Imperfectly, maybe. But genuinely. Someone who is not ready will pull back when access stops being free. That is not rejection. That is information. And when you let that truth speak for itself, your relationship stops feeling like a puzzle you have to solve and starts feeling like a truth you are finally strong enough to face. So no contact is not enough. Because the goal was never to make them panic. The goal was to stop participating in a dynamic where your love was available, even when their presence wasn't. This isn't about becoming colder. It's about becoming clearer. It's about becoming the kind of person who no longer mistakes longing for alignment, mixed signals for depth, or breadcrumbs for connection. When you internalize this, you stop chasing chemistry and start protecting safety. You stop trying to be chosen by someone emotionally split and start choosing the version of you that no longer abandons herself just to keep love alive. These are not tips for getting an avoidant back. They are the beginning of becoming someone who cannot be kept in emotional limbo anymore. And that changes everything about the kind of love you will accept, the kind of connection you will build, and the kind of presence you will bring into every relationship after this. Real intimacy does not begin when someone finally misses you. It begins when your absence is no longer a strategy, but proof that your self-respect is real. If this video helped you understand what no contact can and cannot do, give it a like. Subscribe for more insights on attachment, relationships, and emotional healing. And share this with someone who needs to hear that their silence can mean something real. I'll see you in the next one.